أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Beautiful mothers, fathers, and sisters, all the beautiful tribes of the land, and all the beautiful mothers, the soul mothers of the city. MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. It is the 21st of Rabi'ul Thani, 1447 Hijri, the 12th of October, and it is Yawmul Ithnain. It is the second cycle of the 6 cycles that Allah has installed in our psychology, our stages of growth, our stages of maturity, our spiritual, sensual abilities. MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. We are in a beautiful moment of life, and it is lots of answers that are being fulfilled and lots of questions that are being silenced, mashallah. We are in a time of our lives, in our psychology, in the level of the sama, sitta, the different chambers that you have to persevere as well as endure. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. These are all the fundamental stages in order to find that peace. Okay. Each stage has a beginning and an end, but both beginning and end, you have to find the peace you found in the beginning. Okay, because you cannot get to the next stage if you didn't reclaim that peace, the salam. Okay, Allahumma antas salam wa minkas salam wa ilayka ya'udu salam. Now we are currently on this moment of the transformations and the transmutations that is occurring in our universal laws that governs this planet that we live in and not on. Okay, is that you are coming into the run-off of this 7-year trial. MashaAllah. Every trial has to have a niyyah. Okay. When you go through a planetary transition and transformation, you could call it Umrah, some call it Hajj, okay? But Allah calls it the Hajjul Akbar, okay? Where you return to your mother's home, where your soul finds the peace that you had been fed with whilst you were in the sanctuary of the womb of the planet and of your mother. Okay. Where you found love, where you found peace, where you found security, where you found appreciation, when you needed anything, there was a caregiver. Okay. Whilst you were in that bridge, right? Crossing that bridge. That is where whatever nature needed to create for you to make your transition peaceful, right? That is what nature would provide to ensure that there is a safe landing. Okay. This is described in all the ancient scrolls and scriptures. It's in the Quran, it's in the Hadith, it's in the sayings of many prophecies, okay? It's all out there, but it's not outside, it's inside of us. Everything that we know or doubt only is living inside of ourselves. It's not outside of us, okay? You have a choice believe it or not, but you have to find the surety to qualify to be awarded the Nobel Prize for peace, of peace. Okay? This is what the world is now at loggerheads about who found the true internal, eternal peace and who would be forever at war. Right? This is the decisive moment in a planetarian stand down. Right? Something has to come down and something has to go up. The old is collapsing and the new is coming in. The new is for the new generations. It's not for the services of the old and decomposed that had decayed and become the lie and the joker of a civilization. There's no way that the heavens comes in order to upgrade those who are outgoing. She inspires those who has reached their puberty and peaceful states of conscious, and she gives them the keys for the next stage of your evolution. You all have to understand that you have come here with purpose. And the purpose is what you had to find in this last 7 years of a planetary transition that will change the landscape of a mind, of a brain, of a human forever, forever. It will never ever go back to what it was. Our civilization that we passed by before COVID, she lost the sanity of her natural order. She forfeited it for idyllic lifestyle patterns and modules, and she downloaded it digitally onto her children without knowing how she had hurt herself. Because you cannot hurt your children. Allah will defend them, be it what it may. Okay. So now, those who found the Nobel Prize of Peace, they fought their battles inside. They expelled the dark from the inside out. Okay. They uprooted that doubt and that fears and that guilt. They were attentive to the voice, to the suppressed emotions that you and I had forgotten about for all the different generations that we physiologically had moved through. This is the order of the universe. This is ilmul ladunni, we call it. We don't find it just like by reading the books. We have to experience it to activate it, because it doesn't live on the outside. It is only planted inside of us. Okay? That is when Allah says that you have to go into the room, into the house, and if you don't find what you need, you have to go back until door opens, that you can enter into the next phase of your expansion of realities, of alameen. Not one alam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Now, we're not challenging the logic of a past decomposed narrative. We are injecting this into a new child that is coming into Earth, a new psychology, a new vision, a new world that will not see what happened to the children of the yesterdays. There's no way that it can be told to them a lie and they expect to find the God in a living lie. That is not going to be the order. Okay? أتى أمر الله يا إبراهيم أعرض عن هذا إن الأمر قد قضى, something to that effect. We've become so infatuated with the literal that we actually could not connect with the spirit of the text, with the spirit, the ruh of the nas. The communication doesn't take place physically. It takes place and through a spiritual connection that is psychologically activated at the time that your frequency, your optimum balances are in place. Okay, you have to teach your children this, people. You're not going to be able to forfeit this to them, because this is the deen of Allah. You have to give it to them. It is your amana, because before you come into earth, you know your name, you choose your name, you just forgot everything. Everything that you have, you had a choice. You choose your parents, you choose your path, but you just forget it because you become infatuated in the journey. Okay, but everything is downloaded inside of you. That's why things appeals to you, because it's inside of you. Okay, so whilst you consciously know as a higher being, okay, as an Allah creation, not a bionic creation, an artificial creation, an Allah prototype, right? That you are going through a purging process, a hijrah process, physiologically and scientifically and cosmologically and biologically. You're going through all those processes at once here in this simulation. Okay. It's for your children that the heavens is doing it. It's not about you anymore. Your script, if you don't follow your scroll, then you're not going to read the rizq that is coming for the children, not for you. Your parents has to ensure that you bring your own rizq, and so does the heavens ensure that your children comes with their own rizq. The rizq is not money, it's not education. It is for them to remember and to know who they are. That's your purpose. You can't give them a false artificial lifestyle. You have to give them that which is in collaboration with their nature, with their fitra. That's the deen. That's their deen. You can't create their deen. Allah creates their deen. And their deen and our deen is not the same, because we're going out and they coming in. They getting the new deen. They getting the authentic deen, that which the last generations forfeited. Okay, so they getting that infrastructure to build a foundation that will be pure power. That is the salam. That's Darus Salam. As a civilization, most of you don't have a clue what Jannah and Jahannam means. You just fear something because it's unknown to most of you. Okay, but it is a stage of your life that either you keep it blank or you fill it in yourself. Okay, let's put it to you in that way, because you are depending on a system where gods are given preferential treatment to certain nations, and he disgustingly forfeits the overwhelming majority. Okay, this is phases. You must understand that if you don't know your true quality, you wouldn't ever come to understand what love is. Okay, unconditional love. Where you come from, you didn't pay. You're getting the sun at night. The energy of the sun still sustains you at night, and we don't even say shukran for that. Okay, everything that we are getting here is completely free if we get to that stage. But until we are still slaves, we'll have to believe in the trade ships and the warships. That's where we are going to be lost at sea. Okay. Now, what is important for you as a people in the south? You have a very limited abilities to make a spiritual connection with your deceased mother. You don't have a connection with a soul. How does a human being perfect a connection with angelic powers? How do you perfect that? Because your mother didn't know you. She volunteered to be the carrier of your experience and to maintain that supervision over you throughout your journeys, throughout your stages. You can never detach from the The is the Ummul Kitab. If you don't have connection to the Ummul Kitab, then you are living in a different stage of a civilization and of a incarnation and of a experience. Okay. So what you just need to know at this moment that we are not scripting the reality, we are narrating it as a civilization. You are just buying, and I'm just buying into another interpretation of another empire, another civilization, another timeline in your conscious modes. Okay. But ultimately, the peace is not outside. Because whilst everything is processed inside, the turmoil, the war, the hostages, the crash, it was all happening inside of us. We were just following a script that was artificially modulated because we could not come inside. When you come inside, you automatically understand that you have to submit. When you submit, they call that Islam. Islam is not a religion, it is a lifestyle that you are in tune to your mother's nature because you are you're landing in your mother's space. Okay, that's a very important connection in this new phase of your upgrades as a nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we're all connected in nur, in energy. Nur is energy. Okay? And nur is one of the Asma'ul Husna. And therefore it is very vital that you and I teach the new generations who knows Allah already before us. Okay? They come in with a pure source. They come in with pure from source. They come in uncorrupted. Okay, they couldn't fix the last machine. That it was doomed to doom. Okay, you couldn't. It was beyond our capacity, right? So that's the nature of things. If certain things dies, new things comes. Okay, but at this juncture of your evolutions and your experience as matured human beings, not as people who has two hearts in one body. No, people who knows where their heart is. Not people that must still go and pay for their sins. People that has already found peace with their mothers, even though their mothers are not in their physical realm. Because your connection with your mother is inevitably spiritual. It was never physical because you knew her before you saw her. Okay? So that sacred bond that Allah Ta'ala had shielded, okay, the great soul tribes of the earth, okay, that was the strength in this entire rundown. Okay, you had a dry run in the dunya where you learned to know about physical things, and where you believed that was the only physical, that was the unipolar. Now you're going into a multipolarity, but you have to know your level of competence now. Okay, if you want to live, if you don't grow, you die. Okay, but you must be able to get the feeds from the data centers, which is all planted inside of us. The entire scroll is downloaded into us. Allah has never been so unsophisticated and unapologetic not to give us the full details. وَفَصَّلْنَاهَا تَفْصِيلًا مَا فَرَّضْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Okay, everything we are just like believing that somebody knows better than the other, and therefore you trust that person because you don't trust yourself. If you don't have trust, then where are you based in? Which trust have you put yourself into? Have you went and committed yourself in a fraudulent, yani riba economy? Did you forfeit your sovereign wealth and your trust in something which was ultimately your endorsement to a Jahannam lifestyle of unconscious modulations, simulations, and experiences? No. Can you want to give that same experience to your children before you leave? Do you want to endorse that world for them? Allah will not allow it because the great mothers has disapproved of it. Okay. Allah is not biased. Allah doesn't know Christians, Muslims, Jews. Allah doesn't make division amongst his people. It's us that has made it by ourselves, because we cannot come to terms with the fact that we are living in an idolatry formula of a life. But this is purposely so that you and I can learn our lessons and understand how the path opens as you go deeper into yourselves. Okay? The journey on earth is when you find the Isra. Isra is not where you think it is a Uraki that comes. That was in the past world. That was in the Stone Age. You have to come out of that capture because it's going to instone you. It's going to put the Rockefellers and the stone worshippers and the black cubes and the white houses. It's going to, it's going to be poisonous for your sanity. Okay. So the peace, the noble peace, you cannot find it in a Advent where it is not presented. Okay. So in the last 7 years of your life, this was the presentation of the heavens for you to find the peace, for you to come out of that box, for you to come out of that safe zone, that comfort zone, that anomalies, whatever you found yourself uncomfortable with. You had to work yourself out of those patterns to come back again to the sabil, okay? So that when the doors opens, then you get your feeds, because you need data, you need from source. You can't find what you've been watching in this last 7 years since Corona. Everything was transmitted to you via a digital platform. So that has already digitalized you. You don't need a car to become a digital agent. And a notification to the agent is a notification to the principal. Right? So you have to be alert in this journey. And unfortunately, because of the lifestyles and the paradigms and the justifications that you feel secured with, that suffice. But it is not going to suffice your next generation, because they come in to destroy the past psychology. Okay, they cannot survive off something which could not be self-sustainable. The heavens doesn't give you something which is scrapped. It gives you something which is naturally self-sustainable. So this is in the Quran, people. This is where you're supposed to be. This is where you're supposed to open your scroll at this moment in your juncture of your growing patterns, and you transcending the physical capture, the ego conscious. Okay, it's how you grow. You grow from one stage. The child that you were 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that child is dead already. Okay, because you born in a new stage, age, and experience. So the death threats by now, since COVID, you had to break out of that fear mongering as a conscious. If you're still stuck into that fabricated version of what you think death is, then it's because you have not done your work. unfortunately. It was the season. You can't plant the wrong seeds in the wrong season. If it's that season, you plant it because you have the right to do so. You see, your seeds are your intentions. That's your niyyah. Because you alone know your own niyyah. And your niyyah is what rewards you, but you're all the time lying when you make a niyyah. Because you make a niyyah and then you ask the wrong God for help. Okay? Allah doesn't create money, people. You have gone and shown your children an illegitimate lifestyle where they ask a non-entity who Allah creates inside of you for something which Allah controls all the time. Okay? So your definition of a God to the new generation is very much expanded from what your information was, who is a God. Okay? The level of your intelligence did not suffice to push it through to the next generation. So they will now remodule the fallacies of what a Stone Age and empires captured, each one in their date and time as to how they understood the journey. Okay? So we are a lost tribe, soul tribe, that is the carriers of the blueprints, that understands the codes. We come in with codes. We decode the text. Okay, that's our work. We need to do that because this is going to help the children, because they need to understand, because their mothers and fathers and their whichever people, they are not from their tribe. So their own tribe leaders with the tribe ancestors, they have to send in reinforcement here. That's how we come into this equation, okay? But these are built on timelines up to your conscious levels. If you stuck in one phase because out of fear, your guilt, your sins, your whatever happened to you in the past world, life, honey, I cannot solve it for you. The only problem here is you're going to call me mad because you're not given your upgrade. But in all fairness, I do not need your validation because I cannot expect you to agree with me. That's not my purpose here. My purpose is only to tell you of my uncoverings because I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to see it. I'm going to believe it. And I'm going to know what is the actual reality. That is what I need to secure for myself. Okay? And if it resonates with the soul tribes, then I don't need to see them, people, because I'm always going to be with them. Because I know their qualities, I know their discipline, I know their patterns, I know their formulas, I know their cultural orientations, I know their rhythms, I know their jiggers, I know their frequency, I know their sound. You can't cap sound, okay? You can't cap something which is authentic because your voice, you didn't create the voice, guys. We never created the voice. The voice has her own frequency, and subject to how in synchronicity your body is with the frequency of your sound, that is how far you reach. Okay. So, mashallah, tabarakallah, your Quran is very undernourished. Even وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ مَا لِهَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمُ. What about when the Prophet came in conscious, to open up the age, to give you your supplements, to upgrade your levels of perceptions, and he asked, why did they forfeit the book? Why did they not look at the book, man? The kitab, because you are supposed to be of the people of the book, because the book is inside of your people. Our forefathers taught us where our books are. We didn't search for a book on the outside because we knew we had to read our book. But that book that came, that was the cosmological book of the order of that came in the beginning. Before we came here, there was a book, there was a plan, there was a script. Okay, that's the Quran. It's not given to one man, it's given to all. All has the access to the Quran, but you have to make your efforts. Okay, How are you going to read the Quran if it's not inside of you in Jannah? Doesn't make sense. Okay, guys. So the peace is where the Quran will sustain you. That is your Qibla. That is your Masjid al-Haram now. Okay? Because when you move from the Masjid al-Haram to the Masjid al-Aqsa, you must first find where is your Masjid al-Haram, because it's not outside of you. You've got to turn to your Masjid al-Haram, your sanctuary. You've got to find your sanctuary. Okay. And that is where you will get your that's where you will get your data. That's where you'll get your upgrades. That's where you'll get your ilham, your inspiration. That's where you'll get your wisdom. And that's where you find your companions. Okay. It's necessary for us to do this because our mothers cannot do it, nor our fathers. The only thing they have secured in the last generation of the children that is coming now is make sure they had a life policy, okay? Because they couldn't trust whether that God would be suffice where they're going to, okay? So your children lives inside of you. You must understand how civilizations, how reality, how things are in natural order, not in artificial order. Most of you just see it from the screens. You have to see it inside of you because that's the natural order. That's how you get to see outside, and it is reversed in your personifications. Okay, but it's necessary that the children who are coming organically, authentically with that imprint, okay, it's necessary that we sustain them with that which is our sovereign cultural orientations and rituals and rites. That's important for you guys to know now. These children know Allah already. You can't give them another religion. You can't give them an exported or imported God now anymore. Allah has to send the originals down, guys. Okay, because our understanding of a God is not going to be acceptable by our children because they see us as idolaters in the minds that they're coming into. فَدَمَّرْنَاهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ, guys. It's not an easy world, an easy reality we are surfacing at this moment in our evolution in conscious. Okay. Because we are authentic, we understand the planet, we understand the mother's heart, we understand the affection, we understand the roots, okay? We have to ignite our branches so that the Shu'aib and the Salihs can come into the position here now, okay? Everything in your journey is mystical because none of you knew how the Quran came. We are just using a narrative, a story. But if you cannot understand where your Noor is, where your Jabal of Noor is, if you don't summit that mountain, then you're never going to find your own Noor inside of you because it's in the cave, inside, hidden. Okay? When you go there, you will be notified that you don't have to fear. Inna Allah ma'a. Inna Allah ma'ana. Allah will be with us. Okay. So the stories what your children and your next 7 generations are going to understand about the journey of Earth, it will not be the narrative that you had seen your perspective of a reality. It would be something very pure because, as I said, we until now could not identify to our children where Jannah and Jahannam is. With all the trillions of books, you couldn't tell them what they're doing here, you couldn't tell them where they're going to. You put them through the highest levels of education and still they doubt it. Okay? They doubt themselves, they're still unsure, they're still paying jizya for their sins. Okay? That pattern, that module is fictionally induced, right? So it's good. It's good for us because we have mothers on this planet, in this city, that comes from very high ranking royal and roots, very royal, very highly ranked in the Sama. People that, Allahu Akbar, yani, you wouldn't find mothers of this nature yani, in most of the parts of the world. The respect they gave the men, even though they intruded, they invaded, they yani, abused, okay, coming from wherever they came, but they never lost their integrity. Our mothers, our real mothers, Qasam. They live in our cities, they live amongst us, but they didn't come to find validity because they're still living in the Jannah. In the Jannah, they are there. They're absolutely there. You're not going to get them out of there. That's their home. Okay. So when you come to understand where you came on the word Jannah and how it brought وَلَنُخْرِجَنَّكَ يَا شُعَيْبْ, okay, how it brought the emphasis on getting you out of that past yani, civilization and bringing in a new branch of a life which would sustain the natural yani, lifestyles of the indigenous First Nation tribes of the spiritual revelations. Okay, you're coming in there. That's where your ancestors from this land, with the numbers that they had, it's not the fathers that protected, it's the great mothers of the land that protected the nature of these mothers and daughters and sisters that was even in minority, but they continuously maintained their cultural identity. That is what the world is searching for. That is how you can be shielded from having a fraudulent experience, by knowing who your ancestors and who are their yani, offspring. That's your right. You must know your soul tribe, people. Right? Now the children that is coming in, because they come from source, you have to send them back to source. Okay, you have to send them back to the soul mothers. So the lifestyles that is being ordained is going back to our roots now. It's going back to our roots, people. If you didn't find your roots, then you obviously couldn't find life. If there's no life, the tree will die, okay, and another tree will come. So we are in that new tree of life. The sajaratun mubarakatun zaytunatun, yani la sharqiyya wa la gharbiyya. We are not here affiliated to any physical yani, attachments. In other words, like the narratives and the stories and the timelines. You live in your own house. When you're in your own house, you must know what your timeline in your cycle is. Your ancestors, your hierarchies of your spiritual order, they have to tell you these things because you come from them. So Allah gives you access to that knowledge when you are a legitimate yani, member of that soul tribe. It's your right, okay? That's how you came to know all the Sahaba. It's all through imaginations. You imagine these things because of the data that you had processed, and now you believe that, unfortunately, Allah was such a cruel man that He didn't afford you to live in the time of the Nabi Muhammad SAW. People, we believe in an oppressive God. Qasam. We think our God is gevaarlijk stupid. Yani, hy is baie unfair en hy maak vis en vleis. Daarvoor accept ons die lewe wat ons lewe, because ons het al klaar ons God gecompromise. Okay? Now your children are coming into a new dispensation. They're not going to make Allah cut him up and share him. They're going to be with Allah. You don't have to tell them who Allah is, because they'll know Allah. Okay? Allah gives you. Why must Allah not give you that knowledge if you are a pure child? Allah is giving in that, and the mothers needs to nurture to get him to know who he is. and give him the laws and the deities and the yani, cultural orientations that will keep him in 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 alignment. That's important, people. It's got nothing to do at this stage with religion, because COVID proved that religion was not watertight. Okay, we had to find a higher perception of a God other than a God that made you close his own house. Which God is so stupid? Okay. So because of your scientific modulations and your diplomas and all of that, and your failure to understand the spirit of this text. Okay. وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحًا مِّنْ أَمْرِنَا. You understand the ruh of the book, not the physical book, because that book will go into different symbols throughout civilizations, because in our civilization the frequency came onto that modulation, onto that vibration, onto that symbols, okay, and that frequency, and that's how we got that side of it. Now at this moment in your lives, for those who want to go or deserve to go back home, you got to find the core of your fitra, your core of your engine room. That's where you are there. Those of us that synthetically went and followed any religion for that matter, it's not wrong, but it's not going to bring you home, because you got to come back to your mother, not go back to your father. They came from the physical is something that gives, and the inner self, the feminine world and the emotional world and the unknown world is that which always is taking. It's only receiving. You put the seed inside the earth. Okay. This is the things that you need to get into working through. This is natural processes. That's why you have seasons and you have months. You follow months, but you don't understand why you do it. You're just doing it, right? It's supposed to serve a purpose, but because it's become a circus. A circus. That's what it's become, because it just gets more and more illusional as deep asleep as you fall. Okay. Now your children already has outgrown those kind of modulations. They've reached a higher level of a experience in this dimension. Okay, where it is in conjunction with the natural universal laws, the sunnah of Allah, not the sunnah of a human being on another side of the planet. The North, they make war against the South, and the South puts on their lights. Okay. When the seasons change, they must make fire so that the fear is in orbit. Okay. That's the planet. Allah speaks to us. All these things are given. If you go into a game, if you go into this paradigm, okay, you can't have Allah be unfair to your opposition. That's not Allah. That's Allah's child that is on the other side also. He must give that child also a script. He must also tell him how to navigate the night. Okay. So when he's at night, when he's in his dark, he tries and makes fire so that you can come over into the dark and he can live off your light. Now you are now at the light. You are in the light. You're on the south of the planet at this very crucial time of your lives. And you must understand what Allah means. وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. Junub is the south. وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Okay. You must have a dialogue with your God. Otherwise, you're busy with a stupid God, a dumb God. Okay. You can't talk, you can't hear, you can't speak. Okay. So that's not a God that we want for ourselves, because if He could make us see, what else could He not make us uncover? Okay. So we have to bring this amount of treasures from our ancestors to our tribe's children. That's our wajibat. That's our mission in life. Okay. All souls comes with the scrolls and the kitabs. You know that the reward is yani undisclosed. Okay. You're not here for somebody to see what kind of car you're driving. No, no ways, guys. We are in a new dimension, guys. Okay. That was an experience now. Now you're speaking about the Super League. This is the Super League. All that dry runs that I gave you, Allah says, we gave you a little bit of yani, te haloop in die rond soos 'n muis. Nou gaan ons nou kyk, wat het sy gecreated? What is the essence that you got out of it? Did you maintain your identity? Did you grow it? Did you find your wings? Did you manage to secure the next generations for where you came from, such high regarded yani, angels from the heavens? That's what you are going through, people. And you know your mothers, you know the nature of your mothers. As hulle iets verkeerd gesien het in die huis, hulle het nie gewag tot na môre nie. Wallahi, hulle het gesê vir Yusuf of Prima, die kinders het dit gedoen, die kinders het hy gedoen, die kinders het hy. Sy het nooit vir ons amper geslap nie. Maar sy het altyd gegee vir die dere, vir die Khalifa. Hy moet die werk doen, verstaan? You must understand the patterns in your culture. You have gone and looked it up in a book. You're not going to find yourself in a book. You're going to find yourself in the mirror of your mother. Because whatever you know, it's because of what she installed into you in values. Okay? The culture that you come from, your ancestors, how they tried for generations to avert you from being on the verge of falling into the dark, as what civilization is now currently experiencing. They are stuck, people. They are stuck. They didn't find the peace inside. They had to find a superficial peace agreement on the outside. Okay, that's why it's in the middle of the east. Okay? Whilst we are in the middle of the south. Okay, this is Allah's work. This is not the human's work. We only have the right to ask, but we cannot doubt when we make our intentions. Okay? Allah Ta'ala is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. It's not just Ar-Rahman, it's Ar-Rahim. Allah is also needing to understand whether you know who you are before you know who He is. That is Ar-Rahim. Okay? And if you found Ar-Rahim, you can never go back to Ar-Rahman, because there's no comparison between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, because Ar-Rahman is where they get the word man. Man comes from Ar-Rahman because you see it in your physical. Okay? But Rahim, that is a different ball game now, because if you don't successfully come out of the Yam, Sarah, Ha, Ya, Mim. Okay? Every letter is encoded. Every sound has a effect, cause and effect. Okay? And every effect has a meaning, but you will have to be quiet, at peace, to hear the message. That's how it is. Okay? I think Allah would have you to study a encyclopedia and a dictionary in order to understand sound, when Allah controls sound, and you have a sound modulator built inside of you. It's installed in us. Okay. If your sound modulator, that's why your culture made sure hulle die kinders geleer alif ba ta en hulle kan die laaste paar suratjies gebadjat, so that they stay in that vibration, so that when they mature, they will still understand the sound and not first the meaning. So the original authentic royal tribes of the lands from the beginning, they will now rear the new generations and set up structures where they will live in it, not we project for them our lifestyle. They come with their own scrolls. They didn't choose to come to you to be your slave. They also have a purpose. They're not just your child. They are also a soul. They also have a heart. And they also come to fulfill their purpose. And you must understand, if you don't know your purpose, you will never know your child's purpose. Because that child needs you to understand why he came. Because most of the time, what they are coming now is the compassion of the mother is wanting to help you out of that and trap. Because they know they've been given reinforcement. They want to tell you the thing. But you want to persist to put them into a digital, fabricated, artificial world because you don't have time. You don't have time. Why? Because you did not find peace. This was the 7 years that when Allah says, Surah Zumar, Salamun alaykum tibatum fadkhuluha aminin. Okay? And this is the time when you were supposed to have understood what you were supposed to find. That's how the scripture, that's how your scrolls, that's how your journey is supposed to be taking you if you're from the soul family, the soul tribes. That's how we live our lives, people. Since the beginning of time, our forefathers did not speak about it openly. Because hulle het altyd gesê die mense se ding was 'n mal, you know? But now that we are in an open cycle, where it is a quantum cycle, it's a qiyam, we can stand again, right? We have to secure our sovereign divine identity. That is haqq of Allah on us and on the tribes. That is authentically from the ruh of the Qudus. That is must be. It will always be a ummah that will be on the haqq. Not because they say everybody else is wrong, no, because they excelled onto a higher frequency where they were reciprocating where and what was this unfamiliar hell that their parents invoked them into, and what is this paradise that is like illusional. Okay? So when they find it, then they'll exactly identify with the Jahannam, because now they'll see the opposite. They will see their parents in Jahannam. That's how this equilibrium is formatted, because they are in, we are out. Okay? That's how they will now start. We aid this. This is our work, people. We take people to Allah, to Allah's house, to the Baytullah, to the Baytul Nur, because that is where we come from. That's our purpose on earth. Right. Now that there is a new digital reality that is awakening into this realm, we have to build a digital sanctuary, because they're going to discover everything was only inside. It wasn't outside. They are only experiencing it inside. That's how Allah vacates a past civilization without you even hearing, but the soul tribes know this. Okay? The noise out there is because it is bad. It is a bad collapse. The noise you're going to find now, the guys are going to make a war now. They're going to take, go into countries and take presidents out, and you're going to see it's going to become, we understand that. Because we have a higher frequency where we tap into, and we get, like, if you get a channel where you subscribe to and you pay for it, then you must get your updates. Now, this is similar because we all are in channels. Your understanding and your wife's understanding, your children, it's all different because God didn't ever want it to be the same. It's just your conformity was based on the illusional, educational, and economic and credit-based Ponzi scheme. Okay, your children had to decode the entire structure in order not to repeat the same mistake, because nature never makes the same mistake twice. Right? We say this with the greatest of integrity, gratification, as well as appreciation for our cultural sovereign wealth. That is our cause. That is our, most of us, we sold it to something, بثمن بخس. You don't forsake your wisdom. That's something that comes over billions of years. You don't ever, because you can't purchase it. You must keep it close to your people. You must keep it close to your generations. It's not religion. It's the sovereign inheritance that Allah gives you in the Quran if you know who you are. You think Allah's going to leave you a Lamborghini? That's the God that you thought is God, that was the Iblis. Okay? Allah doesn't create the physical for ownership. It's experiences. But once you pass that stage, then you understand a higher level of perception. Right? If you love Allah, you will love yourself. Really, if you love Allah, you will love yourself. Don't love a man you didn't meet. You never met anybody because you can't meet anybody in the dead. When somebody's dead, you can't meet him. You are living in infatuation because you don't know who you are. If you're a soul, you can never miss him because he's always in your heart. Your trust was permanent. Die trust bank en die permanente bank en toe raak dit die standaard bank. En nou is hulle indebted aan die bank. Okay? This is how Allah wills it. You know, when there's a transition, it's a yawm al-fasl, it's a miqat. You have to completely cut out of that estranged life and world and conscious. That is when you will now find the akhirah, the altered state of conscious, and not in a physical, reptilian suit, but in a hard cloth with love, unconditional love. Unconditional love. What is more important than love? It's appreciation. Appreciate everything, because there was never ever a mistake down here. It's us that believed in our adversary that is inside of us. The doubt, the fear, the low esteem, it's all inside of us. Okay? And that has led us to believe that we come from slaves because we are in a condition of enslavement, and we believe in religions that had sanctioned slavery in the past. So there's no way your new generation is going to be able to eat all that crap. It's too much of toxic. It's too much toxic. Our Allah, He doesn't oppress human beings. Human beings oppress us. And human beings wants to make heaven in hell. But there's no way that you can just change the text to endorse everything and make it halal. You killed the spirit, you killed the purity of halal. It became a commercial entity in that civilization. And hence, you will come to a stage of your evolution in your psychology now where we would call it the dukhan. Okay? There is going to be like a lot of obscurity in your psychology because you gotta come out. You want to find it. Where did you get it wrong? How did you get there? How? But that dukhan is going to make you evaporate everything that you thought was right, and it's going to become wrong, and you're going to lose your sanity. That's what is important. The Yawmul Qiyamah is not easy in psychology, people. You have to have the courage to accept what was the problem and where was the problem. Otherwise, you're always going to endorse a lifestyle which is living a lie and sustaining a false God. You're not going to find peace. That's why your parents leave earth without peace. Okay? Now for that now, so mashallah tabarakallah. You know, we each one, nobody, I don't expect you to agree with me. It's impossible for you to understand that. And I cannot agree with yours, but I can understand the similarities because I come from it. I know that life. But when I find, as I've been moduled through in my entire journey, I've gone through the cycles more than what most of the normal human being on earth goes. I've gone through this paradigms, and everyone is a different experience of how the heavens takes people into a higher level of comprehension. Okay? That was the physical Hajj. Okay? With all that experience now, it culminates into understanding the higher purpose, because there's always a new story unfolding. But if you understand why you did it, then you will find the answers, and with the intentions of pure. Allah, the universe is a very precise, digital operator. Okay, you are all digital. They just giving you stupid ideas that you can get a digital identity. You are digitally modeled. You only knew numbers through God, through Allah. Okay, Allah is the one that created the numbers in your psychology. You are just running through the mathematics and arithmetics as if it is a science, but you don't understand the modules of this. So it's not just geometry; it is sacred, sacred, sacred seals of the journey, which you have to embrace, because you are made for it. Your script is there, your book is there, so you just have to apply it. So without pain, you're not going to find the peace. The scripture, the system, the operational system is scriptured. It is toned, it is programmed in that way. There has to be pain for you to find the answers. Okay? The pain is not outside. The pain is inside. You're not going to know through appreciation if you don't feel the pain. It's the work of the heavens, because that is where true birth takes place. Okay, so for us, it's just important that this line of communication is still active at this moment in the civilization, right? And the mothers and tribes and khalifas are still in their modest ways, continuing to keeping the lights burning, right? But because it is a digital age, fully blown digital age, we have to secure a spiritual order in that paradigm, in that reality. You have no deen for their children, because they have an artificial, you gave them an artificial deen now, an artificial God now. Okay, they need to understand who they are. They need to have the knowledge of ilmun nafs. Okay, they need to understand what is the true identity, not what is the artificial identity. You cannot artificialize and clone Allah's creation, people. You're going to be penalized for doing that. Okay, so we do not condemn anybody, because everybody is fulfilling their purpose. Whilst we come in order to secure the lifestyle modules of our mothers that leaves earth and our children that enters. That's an important combination. As you end, so shall you begin. Remember that. If you're in the wrong house, you're going to go back to the wrong house. If you're in the right house with the right people, you're going to come back to where your next generation is going to start a new story in collaboration with your story. And that is how you keep your asl, your origin. Okay? That's where you'll always be, and that's where your new children will ask the heavens to allow you, to enter into their Jannah, because they come with a risk. Due to the request of the mother, Allah never says no to a pure mother, because she knows who Allah is. Why do we know these things? We must be honest, because we knew our mothers knew who Allah was. We knew that without a reasonable. So for us still to be given a new definition of God is impossible in this earth. They can't run over that. Although they attempt now. Okay, this was their last and final attempt. But the mother will sort the children out. It's not your duty to make dua for your mother's children. They are also children. If you make dua with good, you will get good back. But if you ask dua for destruction, you will find destruction. That's just how the bionic simulation had patterned and programmed your psychology, and that's why the results comes to what it is now. Okay, so Yusuf's brothers must go back to Egypt now, okay, to sign the peace accord. Okay, but there's always a snag in the story if you read the book. There's always a snag. Speaking to the soul tribes, read Surah Yusuf. Read it, because you all know it. You all should know the story by now, because the veils are lifted, guys. Okay, you can be who you were, who you are. You don't have to hide it any longer, because you don't need external validity. That's what Jannah is. Okay, when you can live in peace, then you have already opened up the chamber of the Jannah. So may Allah Ta'ala grant you to have a beautiful week ahead, mashallah. And may you send lots of salawat, salawat on your ancestors. Send salawat on your ancestors, please. They were also Rasuls and Malaikas and Ambiyas. They were that. If you're a soul, a Nabi can only be a soul, because the physical world cannot sustain something which is everlasting, because Quran is everlasting. So if you understand the level of your degree of subscription, and you get your new ID, okay, then you will discover what your roots are, because it's only inside of you. Yeah? That's the nice part of the journey, is that what you once upon a time in life believed you will only experience if you leave this earth was proven wrong when COVID came. When you see death outside, death is inside. When you see ourselves shielding from it, you must know Allah is inside of us. Okay? And if you are cordoned off and put into a lockdown, you must know that you are starting a one-on-one with your Creator. Okay? That is a 7-year journey. That's a 7-year journey. And that is a journey that breaks you into thin pieces, so that you can find that in every piece there's a piece. But you have to, right? People, you don't expect any rewards, because it's already you cannot compensate for it, because it is not monetized. It is heavenly, sustained. When God speaks about sustenance, Allah really made everything before you came here. You still want Him to ask Him, He made a mistake that He didn't give you what He's supposed to give you, because you are expecting Him to intervene while you are in Jahannam, right? In an unconscious frame of mind. But when you come back to your natural scroll, then you will understand that He deliberately couldn't help you. Otherwise, you would have been longer serving time where you were. Okay? So, there's always rahmah. There's always going to be rahmah. Just this time around is that each one chooses his sovereign right over any foreign imported gods and belief systems and economic corporations. Okay, you can't live with the dead, the corpses. The corpses is the corporations; they control the dead. Okay, but when you live with those who are alive, who feels you, knows you, and then you are with the Al Hayyul Qayyum. Then you're with a different set of rules now. Okay. This is the modulations that you heard in your past lives of Atlanta, Tartaria. But you must understand that the physical was never a reality in the experience. It was the crux of the fiction. That's what it was. So just need to work through that, inshallah. But Allah will give you the insight. Allah will give you the barakat. You have your ancestors with you. People, please make salawat on your ancestors. Kanala baie vra julle baie nie maak salawat. Salawat. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu. Yani all of us must make salawat on those who believe, not just those who are dead. Those who believe, we must give hulle salawat en dan gee jy vir die waar jy vanaand afkom. فإذا أفضتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله كذكر آبائكم. Okay, know your ancestors, because I can tell you, we are speaking about ancestors here from pulpits and from religious and sometimes governmental, but 90% of them, they don't know their ancestors. Because if you don't know your soul, if you don't know yourself, how are you going to be called back home? You're going to be busy with a false ancestor. Now, most of these political parties, they are telling you in your face they're having a party. From one party, how many parties came from that one party? But you are in denial that they know what they're doing. Okay? Well, they must be controlling the God that you believed in. They must have organized that syndicate to bring him to your capture. Okay? Nobody can change the game. Get that straight. It's got nothing to do with the external. It's only got to do with your conscious and convictions here, because that is where you are alone. That's where your peace is dominant. Okay? And that is where your surety is maximum and your doubt is minimum. Now, our mothers and our fathers, they are living on drugs because they can't close the hope. That's it. That's the conclusion of that age. There's nothing we can do. It's not in my hands. This is the life of nature. It's just how you read the book. Okay? You can't change anything. I can't change anything. If I do good, I can only do good for myself. If I do bad, I can only do bad to myself. Okay. Similarly, that is your program, but it's just because you've been educated externally, you're holding everybody else responsible but yourself. And that is how your operational systems has crashed. Okay? Because the lie was too brutal in the dark of children. Okay? So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for your time. May Allah give you barakat, and may you activate some lights in the skies, inshallah. Some stars, some of the mother stars to come into our presence, inshallah. Shukran so much. Enjoy the evening, and Allah bless you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يا مصطفى كل شيء لله يا نورا من نور الله يا مصطفى